All right, here we go with the fourth installment for this series of 2025 free agent offensive guards for the Miami Dolphins. And I keep putting that disclaimer in because it's not necessarily how I view the players overall, but this is how I feel that these guards can fit into the existing scheme while also seeing if they can improve some of the areas where the team struggled in 2024. You can see on the screen the current rankings, and you can feel free to go back and watch the videos for those three players to see why they're ranked where they are. As another reminder, we're going to go through clips that are short yardage run plays, so those are 1 to 2 yards to go. The plays are not going to be all good or all bad. As I went through that selection of plays, I just tried to pull some that I felt were worth talking through. And that number is not going to be the same for every player that we look at. So next up is Patrick Mekari, and he's a player that I first heard suggested by Kyle Krabs of Locked On Dolphins. And during my initial review, he was definitely among the players that I really liked. So let's go ahead and take a look and talk through his film clips. So this is going to be Mekari here at left guard on most of these clips. So on this play, we're getting a inside zone to the right. So we're getting the combinations here between center right guard up to 55, left guard, left tackle up to 57. And you can see here that these two players do a good job, right? Stanley, helps to spill that over. That defensive tackle off the snap goes into Mekari. So Stanley, doesn't have a good surface to take over that block, so he is just going to spill it over, right? And you can see that they do a good job of that. Stanley climbs. The absence of space there is what you want to see on this combo block, and you can see that Henry does a good job of cutting off of it. So this is a good inside zone rep for Patrick Mekari. Next one here, now he's facing you, still left guard. So this is going to be what looks to be a inside zone again, except for this time, right? You got solo blocks over there, and you're going to get, well, the linebacker gets left unblocked. He wasn't accounted for in this scheme. But talking about Mekari specifically, this is a solo block, and this kind of comes down to, we talked about in the Jenkins video about not knowing how these players are coached to do certain things. And one of the things that we're going to see here with Mekari and some of the other Ravens offensive linemen is that they're not necessarily trying to get off the ball and create movement the same way that some of the other offensive linemen we've seen are. I think a big part of that is that you have Derrick Henry is your running back here, so you don't have to create that movement because his momentum is going to do that. And then you got Lamar Jackson, who can basically sit back there and toy with the defense, making them make a decision before he makes his. So on this, you can see that Mekari's getting off the ball and he's really just trying to mirror that defender, right? He's not necessarily, trying to get some movement, but he's not just trying to sprint off the ball and create the movement that we've seen with some of the other linemen. And, like I said, you got Derrick Henry running, so we're talking about 1 to 2 yard runs. Just can't have an embarrassing loss in these short yardage situations. So kind of a judgment call here as to whether Mekari's not getting movement because he's not capable of it in this one-on-one scenario, or is that the way they're being coached in that room. Again, looking at Mekari. So now we're getting, more of a crack toss or outside zone to the right look. So he is backside on this. And his main objective is to cut off number 94 here. And you can see that he does a good job of that. Would like to see him be able to continue that a little further, but knowing that this run is going outside right away, what Mekari is doing here to go from left guard to a zero tech nose tackle and be able to cut him off is plenty good enough in this scenario. So now we're going to get goal line scenario here. And again, this is outside zone type stuff. Um, and again, like we're not seeing the Ravens run off the ball the way that some of the other teams do, right? If you watch as they get off the ball, right, they're keeping their shoulders more square compared to the way that some of the other teams do it. And in Mekari's case, you can see that, um, he's not necessarily getting locked onto 51. He's continuing play side because Linderbaum is coming backside, but he is helping as he goes there. So not seeing the same type of run off the ball movement, but don't know if that is scheme or ability related. More inside zone here. So you can see that as Mekari, this is all solo blocking 5-on-5. Um, Linderbaum is climbing to the linebacker basically immediately. So solo block there that off the snap of the ball, right? He's getting out here, staying square. That defensive tackle is declaring where he wants to go. And you can see Henry's eyes are right on that path, right? So he sees the leverage that is created by the defensive lineman making a choice, and all Mekari's got to do here is just to seal it inside. And you can see that's exactly what happens there. Henry makes the cutoff of Linderbaum's block and continues, right? But this is inside zone being under control enough that, even though he's stepping out towards this defender, right, left foot's going to go first, right? He is just kind of setting up and letting that defender go where he wants to go. Now we're getting a pull and a kick, right? And we looked at this before with Jenkins, and he was going against a cornerback, right? So this is Mekari pulling around, basically counter tray action where you got the guard and the tackle coming around. Guard is going to kick out. This is just good technique here to get out of there, get on the move, and then be under control enough to gather and deliver that right shoulder block on the kick out. Now we got against the Chargers here, so we're going more inside zone. Obviously a read there. Don't like the way he's falling off of that. Right, so our combination blocks here are going to be center and right guard up to this linebacker, and left guard, left tackle up to number 0 here. And you can see that, I don't know, I guess maybe it's more Stanley than it was Mekari in that case. That defensive tackle is declaring himself on that side of Mekari, right? So you'd like to see more of, just playing through that hip, because Stanley's not going to take over the block at this point. The second part of the combo is over here, right? So based on the leverage, we already know that Mekari should be staying on this block. Stanley's just going to try to spill it over a little bit and then get to number 0 here. And you can see that, Stanley really gets more of Mekari on that combo block than what he does number 93. Back to you now. So he's on the left side as you're looking at it here. And that's going to be outside zone to the right. So we're getting the basically a solo block from him there. We've got the fullback coming through as well, right? Fullback is leading up through to number 0. You're going to have the backside combo of the right guard and the center going to this linebacker. So there is no combo really for Mekari. They've got Stanley helping out on the backside. So solo block here for Mekari. And this is a good job of getting into position right now. And you can see the way that, we talked about that crossover step before. He's not shuffling there. It is right step, sprint through, and wheel around, and then you see him really setting that anchor there and being able to slow down that defender. So good rep here on the backside of outside zone from Mekari. Going back to more inside zone here. Um, this was so Hill is getting down here. This is inside zone to the right. Jackson is pulling, and typically when you pull, he's getting to the outside. But I think he realizes that he made the wrong read there. But talking combinations here: center, right guard up to number 17, right guard, right tackle up to number 53. So really trying to get into a position to split that, and you can see that because of the way that the defensive tackle stays with Mekari, can't really split it there. So he's head up. You see Stanley giving that little shot to the hip, and then going to the linebacker. Now this is a big defensive tackle in Jalen Carter, but inside zone, in most cases, you'd really like to see a little more vertical movement here at the point of attack. But you can see that on both sides, even looking at Falele, who is a monster of a human being. Like in this offense, it doesn't seem like the goal is to create that movement off the snap the same way that we do see in a lot of teams running inside zone. Seems like they are more content with basically just standing up the defender and letting the running back make him right. Against the Steelers here coming at you, so left guard is on the other side. And we're getting inside zone again, right? And we're back to Derrick Henry in the backfield. And Mekari is going against Cam Hayward here, who is another good defensive tackle. And you can see that, again, like the Ravens are not getting a ton of movement up front, right? But they're doing a good job of mirroring those defenders, right? And then when you have Derrick Henry running the ball, he's going to create that movement with his momentum at the point of the tackle in these short yardage situations. All right, now we got the Texans. And more inside zone. So based on the alignments here, we're going to get the combo with the center and the right guard up through that linebacker. Solo blocks with Stanley on the end and Mekari on the defensive tackle here. And again, right, same idea. Not getting a lot of movement there. You can see that Falele does get a little more movement than Mekari is. But based on what we've seen in this scheme, right, this is, probably close to expectation on what they're asking Mekari to do. Then we got the Steelers here, so this is going to be, so that's outside zone. And this is going to be basically a solo block here. Right? You've got Stanley is getting out to that edge defender. Your fullback, Ricard, is getting to that linebacker. And maybe Ricard is supposed to help a little bit on the way to the linebacker. And you can see we don't really get that. But when we're running outside zone here, right, we've really got to see Mekari doing a better job of getting that head to the outside. And you can see, right, everybody else on the line, when you look at Ronnie Stanley and the way that he gets out of his stance, you look at the way that Falele and Rosengarten on the backside, that they're sprinting out of that stance. Linderbaum is trying to work right away. And then you have Mekari, who is, more of a, it definitely looks like he's running more of an inside zone where he's not trying to get that outside leverage, and that ends up costing him on this play. And now we get a little bit of a better look here. So this is outside zone again to the left. And you can see that on this one, right, that now everybody's getting out and running a lot better. Your combination block on the backside here is going to be your center and your right guard. And you see that Falele is a little slow getting there. Linderbaum is slow playing it before he climbs to that linebacker and realizes that he can't go. He's got to stay. But looking at Mekari here, right, much better job here of getting off the ball, running to the outside, and while that defender still comes off and gets in on the play, just the fact that we're getting that horizontal movement here creates that lane that, like I said, these are 1 to 2 yard situations. That's a conversion, right? Looking at where Cam Hayward is starting here, he is dead center of the field, but because Mekari is sprinting to that outside and Hayward has to respect that and play that to the outside, right now we've created that movement to the hash mark and getting the cutoff on the backside here, and that's what's going to create the space in these outside zone runs. Last one on Mekari here. So Mekari did play some tackle as well early in the season. And on this one, we're going to see basically a crack toss play. And I just wanted to include this just because I like the athleticism that it shows out of Mekari. All right, so now the fun part of this. Right, now we come over to our slide and we decide, where does he fit in this group? I promise this is not a, knock Trey Smith series. Mekari is above Trey Smith for me, for sure. That has a lot to do with scheme fit when it comes to Trey Smith, but I promise that we're going to have guards in this series that are going to go below Trey, and he's not going to continue to slide all the way to the bottom of the list. When we look at Mekari versus Tevin Jenkins, I think there's a lot of similarities there. I think that both have shown good ability in both the inside and the outside zone stuff. Jenkins maybe has a little more movement at the point of attack than what Mekari has. And then we compare him to Aaron Banks. Again, Trey Smith is the guy that when we look at inside zone, he is the one that is going to create that movement out of this group, but he also has some really ugly losses in the process of that. So looking at Mekari compared to Aaron Banks, I think they're fairly similar players. I think that there is enough reps from Mekari that show his athleticism that I think that some of those plays where he was slow playing it more and not trying to get movement was more a design of the Baltimore scheme than it was the capability of Mekari. I am going to include the versatility to play some tackle with Mekari because I don't think that it was necessarily that he couldn't play tackle. I think it was that they wanted to get Rosengarten on the field and keep Mekari there. So he bumped into guard. So I think there is added value there and the possibility of having him be a emergency tackle. So for the purposes of my rankings, I am going to put Patrick Mekari at the top of my list for these rankings. And again, we're not factoring in the projected contract amounts. We're not really looking at the player background. We're not looking at the injury status. This is just looking at the film that we have here, plus maybe a little film that I looked at before this. This is where I feel that these guards rank in terms of if we go out and sign these guys. Like I said, I've been using the $10 million number, right? If we go out and sign one of these guys for $10 million, which one do I want most? And right now, this is the order that I have them in.